Hi, everybody. Talking. Cool. Okay, I'm live. Good morning. Sorry, having trouble waking up this morning. Also, you hit the button. I was right. There's a person over here. You can't see him. There you go. Hmm. Yeah. Anybody out there? Is it lagging? Just have trouble with Facebook lagging. Huh. All right. It's like not moving at all. Huh. All right. Cool. There we go. All right. Troubleshooting. Good stuff. Okay. Can I just make it full screen? I move this one over there. Okay. That will help. All right. Okay. Awesome. Adam Webb, good morning, buddy. I will be writing for, I don't know, usually about an hour. Till little people start banging on the door. Yeah, I hear you on the need to spin the legs. Oh my goodness. I'm still yawning. I'm sorry. It's bad. I get up early every morning, so usually I just wake up around the same time that I normally wake up. But this morning, oh man, my alarm went off and I was like, it was like that feeling like you're underwater trying to reach the surface to come out of sleep. But I had a big, lots of riding the last couple days. Well, lots of training, I guess I should say. And racing. So we had the second race in our Wisconsin off-road series on Sunday. And, it rained all day Saturday. And it was cold. Like, cold rain. So normally we go up at least Saturday before a race and pre-ride the course. Try to get our registration out of the way. And then, you check the course out so you know what you're racing on the next day. But the pre-ride was canceled, so in hopes of, the trails being in better shape for the actual race. But we still drove up there Saturday night so that we could just be there in the morning. But yeah, it was just we have like a travel trailer camper, old one, but it's still good. But yeah, so it was just a night of, you know, sitting in the camper in the cold rain. Hi Katrina. Hey, thanks for joining. I just need to get this fan. Okay, there we go. Sorry. So yeah, Sunday we raced our bikes. We were out at this winter sports area. So it's a lot of the places that we mountain bike in Wisconsin are like ski or snowboard areas, so that, you know, we can get some decent elevation. And but a lot of these places will use their property for mountain bike trails in the summertime, when they're obviously not being used for ski stuff. So it was this like winter sports area. They have some, it's not a very technical course. It's really fast, kind of flowy trails. So thankfully it wasn't a total mud fest, because this particular area up north is very like full of pine trees. So there's lots of kind of like sandy, rocky, gravelly ground. So that was good. The course actually held up a lot better than we thought it would. It's not fun for me, at least. I don't know, maybe some people think it's fun. I mean, it's like fun in the way of overcoming a challenge, maybe, but racing your bike in the sloppy mud, rain, and cold, not fun. So it was actually pleasantly surprising on Sunday. Kelly Morgan, good morning. Hey, thanks. How long you riding? For me, it is about 7 a.m. right now, and I usually go till about 8. So about an hour. So just a heads up here, I cause gonna kind of in general lean more towards like open chat for the streams in the future. I'll still have topics from time to time, but since this has been going on for just long enough, I think people have a sense now of like who I am, the kind of things I'll bring to chat discussion. So I want to try to pull in more of like just questions and comments and stuff from people. So I'm going to put that out there on ZCL a little bit more. But did have a little bit of a request for some chat about weight loss today. So I'll try to hit that up before the end. That's one you could talk about. Gosh, I could talk about that almost every week. If it were specifically pertaining to like an individual's scenario. So, let's see. Kelly Morgan says, I have 2.5 hours today to hit up the mountain bike trails. That sounds lovely. She asks how long was the race and nutrition on the bike. So this race was 4 laps of, I'm going to say a 5-mile course. So about 20 miles. And actually, I cannot even remember what my time was. If I can look it up right now without wrecking the screen setup. Hey, Zizmansky, I didn't even see you over there in my other chat. He says, weight loss. It does kind of have that feeling to it, doesn't it? Let's see. Where's Johnny Noblet this morning, my tech boy? If you're on it, Johnny, look up Wisconsin Off-Road Series. Results from race number 2 for Cat 1 Pro women overall. And get me my time. That'd be awesome if you could do that, if you're around. I'm the other chat. So yeah, let's find out how long my race was. I would like to know that actually. But nutrition on the bike, when I'm racing, it's cross-country mountain bike race is high intensity. There's so many places you have to just like burst really hard and then go back to that high, steady threshold hammer pace. So I rely pretty heavily on power gels. So over the course of let's say one of my races is somewhere around an hour and a half. I'd say that's probably average for the courses. I usually end up putting down 4 to 5 gels. I try to make sure, 2 to 3 hours before the race, I have a decent meal. But getting up to the race, you don't want to be digesting food still, so then I start to really rely on gels or more liquid type food. Ben Lasaki, dude, thank you. That's so awesome. He posted a time, which I assume was the time I was asking for the lookup on. So, 1:45, 14, hour and 45 minutes. This particular race is a little bit longer than some of them. Usually we have a bit of a longer loop and do one last lap. Which is kind of different from like if you look at like World Cup mountain biking, they try to keep the loops shorter, cram as much cool stuff as they can into the lap, and have more laps. So just for more visibility, it makes it easier for spectators to watch the race or for them to get footage of it. Good morning, Devore. I hope that's how I say your name. From, and he gives me a flag. You're gonna make me work on my geography this morning. Nathan actually keeps what is it? It's like a placemat of all the flags of the world underneath our keyboard right here. Because come on, who can remember all those? But it's missing right now. I kind of don't want you to tell me where you're from. I kind of want to figure it out. But I can't find my cool placemat with all the flags. Richard Lovelock, good morning. How are you this morning? I don't know if it's morning for you. I cannot keep track of where people are from or the time zones. I'll get there. I got a couple of you who are in the chat frequently enough for me to know what's going on in your world. Zizmansky, right? Oh, there we go. We got some more results. Yep, there's my... So yeah, that was at race time. 1:45. I would have guessed you were 27. Thanks, that's so flattering. I don't know how I would have had 5 babies by the time I was 27. Unless I had started scandalously young. Yep, I'm 36. So they actually don't usually give me a age group category because I compete for the overall standings. So that's interesting. Maybe I haven't looked at the results like that long enough. Oh, maybe they give you one, but then you don't place in it necessarily by the end. Maybe that's what it is. If you end up in the top 5 overall women, they take you out of the placings for the age group categories. Yeah, I'm 36. Nathan's 35. I'm a whole year older than him. Which maybe doesn't seem like much now. But, you know, when we met and got married and I was 20 and he was 19 and he was just finishing his super senior year of high school. That's another story for a different day. I thought I was so much older than him. Like, he was still in high school. But then he impressed me with his maturity and wisdom and general charismaticness. Scott Berg, hello from Denver. Hello back at ya. Carrie says, good morning. Good morning to you too. I'm kind of randomly chatting this morning. It's gonna kind of cover some of my racing and training exploits for the last couple weeks and forecasting out to the next couple weeks. Sis Fancy says Nathan's got skills. Yeah. Oh, lunchtime in the UK. There we go. Richard, I was trying to figure out where he was at in his day before. All right, so I had Sis Mansky says, my streams are more fun because I set Nathan's maturity to the side. We keep toying with the idea of like, you know, I keep thinking about if I can squeeze in some sort of other time to stream, but maybe just to Twitch or Beam or both. I don't know if he still does both. I'm behind on that. I guess so. Where I can just, where it's not like for ZCL, where I can just stream about whatever. It could get wild. In a good way. It might be fun. Yes, Nancy says, we need a yoga stream. We could do let's see. Yoga. Well, one of my specialities when it comes to yoga is incorporating children. Since I use their sleeping time in the morning to get my biking done, when I do my yoga, it's usually when they're awake. So they climb all over me. So when I first started doing yoga regularly, it was like they'd jump on me or crawl underneath me, and I'd fall over and stuff. But now it's kind of like a challenge. Now I've gotten to the point where I can like hold these poses with children on me. And then that kind of comes to be part of the challenge of the exercise. Okay, so yeah, as Nancy says, we need a yoga stream. I feel like I have tendonitis in every joint below my waist. I'll leave that one alone and treat it seriously for right now. So, you know about doing planks with your child on your back, right? That's a thing. But I will share at the end of the stream, I have a YouTube playlist of yoga videos that I've compiled for our coaching network. So I'll share one or two of those at the end. I'll link them in the comments here. But that's something to think about. I might actually think about doing a stream of something like that at some point, because to me there's some explanation involved into how to do some of that for what you're doing in cycling, or for specific areas that are troublesome or tight. So sometimes there's adaptations, you need to make for that. So I'll think about that. But do you have a foam roller? Foam rolling is where it's at. Got to get some foam rolling or some stretching in there, says Mansky. Make sure to do it when you're warmed up. I used to think foam rolling was torture. Like my first couple years really cycling and training to race, oh my gosh, it hurt so bad. My legs were so tight. So my first pregnancy, when I was trying to practice breathing, I would do it during foam rolling. Because I was like, this is so torturous. It must be kind of like what it feels like. Wrong. Okay, good questions here. Kelly Morgan and Zvor, how do you get the glowing bike? You ride your bike up the virtual Mount Everest. So there's a Mount Everest challenge. I don't know if it's still there. I think it's still there. But once you've climbed in-game in Zwift, it's not like an actual course or anything. It just, once you've climbed the amount of climbing it would take to go up Mount Everest, then you get the glowing bike. Oh yeah, so Richard says, yeah, it's still there. Yeah, I do intervals, like threshold intervals sometimes on the mountain climb. I'll just go like up, down, up, down, up, down. So in my spring training last year, enough of those got me the pink bike. Yes, Kelly says I've done the volcano. Yeah, you know, it just takes time. It adds up over time. Oh, Richard, thanks for sharing. Richard shared a link to something called Yoga for Cyclists. I'll have to check that out. My personal approach to complementary training for cyclists, complementary meaning any type of training you do that's not on the bike, is it needs to be really specific and really efficient. And the efficiency being so that you don't have to do it so often. So that, most people I know who have training goals of any kind on the bike, it's enough, right, to just get the time on the bike in, right? So anything beyond that, to me, needs to be short, sweet, super, super pinpointed in what it's targeting, and time efficient. So, let me catch up here. Never feel like the foam roller helps. Oh, you got something else going on. Do we ever talk about that collagen protein? You just might need some dietary help to your connective tissues. Or some heat therapy might help you. I know I've talked about that a lot. If you can hit up a sauna once a week, I don't know if you have access to that anywhere. If not, just take a ripping hot bath and then follow it up with either a quick cold shower or some cold water. Or, this might help you too, Szymanski, if you can take a hot bath to the point where you feel like you're getting heated, and then do some foam rolling. And then maybe later in the day or even the next day, get in like a cold soak. That might help a ton. But I foam roll like once a week. And I feel like even that helps. So if you're doing it every day, and you feel like it doesn't help, that's the kind of stuff that makes me want to just like face palm and bang my head against the door. Why am I doing this? And it's not doing anything. Fidget spinners. Oh my gosh. Okay. Question from, where did it go? Kelly. About, where did it go? How many days a week do I ride? I ride every day. I maybe, if I really have one of those mornings that I get up and I'm like, the thought of getting on a bike right now Makes me want to cry. If I have those days, then I just don't do it. But I ride every day, even if it's just an hour of active recovery. Just spinning my legs. I typically ride in the mornings, unless it's a big, long, hard, heavy training ride. Those I'll try to get in on the weekends. Maybe once during the week for a short one. And then I do those later in the day. But I ride typically in the mornings before my kids wake up. And I've been doing that for so long that if I don't, it's like missing your coffee in the morning. It's like the rest of my day is kind of out of whack. Like my body is just so used to waking up and starting the day with exertion. So yeah, I ride pretty much every day. Kelly says I've done Box Hill and Fox Hill repeats. So girl, you are BA. Box Hill repeats. Oh. I race, if I do a Zwift race, it's most often the KISS 100. And it always ends up being the one on that course. So it's like, I don't know, it ends up for me being about 2 hours and 45 minutes. And hammering that whole time to try to hold wheels of guys in the either, at the back of the A race or the front of the B race. And then 5 times up that hill in the middle of that is just like good for you. Maybe doing repeats though, just knocking it out like that would make me see, because I don't feel like that about the mountain route or whatever else. I don't know. Okay, so Kelly, you are a triathlete then, which is kind of its own thing, right? So 3 weeks hard and then a rest week, but still swim, bike, run, just less intense. Sounds right on. I think out of the 3 of those, the running is probably what you need to monitor the most for your recovery. But again, that varies from individual to individual. Yeah, she says we are crazy. Yep. Triathletes are a special kind of crazy. Really good kind, though. It's commendable. I mean, to train for, I guess it is one sport, but it's, 3 different disciplines that combine into one sport. That's your coach's job. You pay her to tell you what to do. That's right. Whoops. All right. So, okay. Nathan Guerra, who said he was so tired, is in the chat. Do you need me to come tuck you in, honey, so that you disengage and go to sleep? The man already broadcasted at 4 a.m. But Nathan's giving good advice. This is Mansky, a kiss 100 every week or two. So this is interesting. Let's see. Oh, so Zizmancy says I do okay in the Bs on Zwift, and then go outside and get killed in the Cat 4s. Let's see. Yeah, even though, you look at Zwift and it seems huge, right? The numbers, because they're global. But there's a whole lot of, local to every area. A lot more serious cyclists out there that just aren't using it yet. So I think when you go out and race in real life, you're just in a bigger, deeper, obviously very serious talent pool. For now. I could be wrong about that. Kelly says starting to like mountain biking. So you have a fat bike, is that what you're saying? Those are fun. I don't know, he's a fat boy. I don't know if that's like a type of mountain bike or if it's actually like a fat bike, the kind with the super big fat tires. Yep, okay, there we go. Yeah, initially when those came out, it was more of like snow riding, right? But I don't know, it's caught on. People really just like them for trail riding and for whatever. So I prefer to stick to those in the snow or maybe in the mud. But I mean, because I race cross country, so any chance I have with the long Wisconsin winters to get outside on my cross country bike, I take it. So, good question. What's your FTP? Or is it different for mountain bike? So it's definitely not different because it's just an objective number that you have to measure using a power meter. But it still is probably, in general, the most important factor. It's kind of like the bread and butter of any kind of racing, right? Is your threshold power. So even in mountain biking, like in road bike racing, you're probably in that threshold from a more consistent amount of time. In mountain bike racing, you spike above it, come back down to it, spike above it, go down under it, come back to it, spike above it. But it's still the baseline, if that makes sense. So right now, I think in Zwift, my FTP is 228. I think the last time that was updated came from it may have came from a race. I entered, I think, a shorter race. But sometimes I do these, like, we just call them 20s. 20 minutes intervals of just working on holding that power as steady and high as possible, which can be hard. It's kind of tricky to learn to do because the tendency is to go too hard for the first 3 to 5 minutes And then your power suffers for the whole rest of that 20 minutes. So for me at 228, I have no idea what that sounds like to anyone else, because that number really just matters in relation to how much you weigh. So I'm right about at 115 pounds. I think that comes out to like 51 and a half, maybe 52 kilos. So my watts per kilogram is about 4.3 then for my threshold power. But I know, we like to follow what like the top world mountain bikers are doing. So I know even though they compete on trails, they'll train maybe like 2 days a week on technical skills, and the other 5 days a week is working on anaerobic style intervals and lots of base and lots of that threshold power. So let's see, trying to keep up with 2 different chats here. I'm not doing a very good job, sorry. So Szymanski said, in Zwift, the gap between categories is huge. In real life, the gap between the better Cat 4s and Cat 3 is non-existent. Yeah, that sounds pretty normal, I guess, right? That's kind of what I was saying about the pool is still just much, much bigger in real life. At least for now. So I think that's probably what would account for that. Right, like I'm curious, Mike, just out of curiosity, like, Szymanski, let's take any one of those races you show up to, right? For all the categories, about how many people are at one race, and then about how many of them race in Zwift. I'm willing to bet the percentage is still probably fairly small. So let's see, where are we? Seem to be the king of January, then fade by April or May. Yeah, there we go. Hardly any of the guys at your races are on Zwift. So Szymanski, that's something to talk about, because you seem to be willing to put the time in on the bike, but I mean, if you really want to try to see your performance go up, then looking at like just how you say you feel throughout the course of a year, of a whole training year, and then even just how to plan your workouts and how to recover from them, getting a little more hands-on coaching or something like that might just be the key, because it sounds like you have the pieces of the puzzle, but if you can't put them together right, then the whole thing just looks like a mess still, even though all like the actual parts might be there. Sorry if I'm getting all oh my gosh, can't even think of the word for it right now. Allegorical on you. But there's something to it, right? All right, so Antonio, hey, thanks for joining the comments. Yes, Nathan and I race mountain bikes. That's been our focus of training pretty much always. It's kind of our love in the cycling world. I did a road race like once. Just not my thing. So Kelly says, your Roma aren't too high. Is that a mountain bike thing? Can you expound on that for me? I'm not sure. I don't know if it's a thing that I just don't know about, or ROMA. What is that? See what I got on the other one while we're waiting for that. Oh, Zismansky, you had a crappy race weekend and found a crack in the rear of your frame? Or is that a frame or a wheel? It sounds really sad. It is kind of just part of it, though. Wheel, okay. All right, let's see. How does Zwift make you better outside? That's a good question. Well, again, it kind of goes back to some of that threshold power conversation. Even on a mountain bike trail, you are still, I mean, you might get these occasional breaks from pedaling to descend or ride over something, but it's not like your heart rate ever drops that much, even in those little breaks. So it's still just pedal power, constant, continuous, being able to make those spikes and then come back down to still your threshold and hopefully not have to go back under it too much to recover. So, you know, Zwift training is so much about that watts per kilogram. I've noticed even in just the last year, my watts per kilogram is up, and I just have a lot more steady pedal power on the trails than I used to. So for me, my something I can improve on in real life is I need to be able to, a lot of mountain biking is about your economy on the bike, so saving and using energy where it makes the most sense. But that's with like little minute movements, right? So I need to be able to take that steady pedal pace and try to keep it rolling while controlling and maneuvering a bike on rough, undulating trail. Yeah, see, that's a good point. He says on a mountain bike, it's hard to maintain an average pace, but that depends how you look at the average pace. So your FCP is often based on like a 20-ish minute type measurement, right? So it's how many watts you can hold on average for that 20 minutes. So we have a type of workout we do called microbursts. So it's for the course of 20 minutes, it's 15 seconds of all out power. 15 seconds, okay? Usually start standing. I have to finish them sitting after I've done a couple. The last 2 or 3 seconds maybe. So 15 seconds all out. 15 seconds nothing. Your legs just stop, you coast, you pant and gasp. So 15 seconds on, 15 seconds off. So if you look at that, by the end of it, you've only pedaled for half of the entire time, but the power, your average power output, if you have good fitness, by the end of that 20 minutes, is oftentimes about the same as your 20-minute just steady pedal power pace. So if you look at that, the average, your average power output over the course of 20 minutes is the same, but you were putting it out really differently. So that's part of where, just the dynamics of how you train and use the power, and still why, even under that type of scenario, why the functional threshold power is so important no matter what type of racing you're doing. Unless it's like downhill. That's different.
Ride on.
All right, let's see. Catch up on the comments on the other side. So Nathan was saying, usually power is power, but if you have a weakness in force and you don't shift down, it might be a little easier, but the power output is typically the power output. It doesn't matter about the gradient. For some, the force makes their power production easier, actually. Depends on their traits. So yeah, that's if that makes sense, that's a dynamic that I have to pay attention to and work on in my training, because if I do, I don't know, let's say half hour to an hour, see how much power I can put out for that time. If it's a flat course, I will, well, let's put it this way. If there's resistance, if there's climbing, I will for sure, hands down, be able to hold a higher power over the course of that time than if it's flat and there's not resistance. So I have just by nature of the way my muscles and my cardio works and all that together, I have good force. I can put out good power against resistance better than otherwise, but that means I have weaknesses in other areas then. Like it's ideal for your long-term ability to sustain a certain pace, to have a higher cadence and not be pushing so much resistance all the time and still have that high power. So that's something I have to work on myself. Thanks for joining, Kelly. Gotta eat then train. Yep. That's right. Keith Gilmore joined. I'm gonna say hi to you. Hey, Chad. Normalized power would be much higher than average power. Is that the case of the microburst we were talking about? See ya, Adam. Thanks for joining this morning. There's some good questions on the Twitch chat over here that Nathan's doing a good job with. If are interesting to anyone, I'm not going to re-answer them, but this was a good question. If I do a climb, this totally reminds me of math word problems in high school or middle school. I don't remember. If I do a climb on Zwift of 15% against my friend, but his trainer can simulate up to 6%, is it easier for him to do the climb? I'll read Nathan's answer. Oh, I did already. That was going back from what I said before. Gotcha, about the force, weakness, or strength. It's usually just dependent on power, not the gradient. Chad says, no, watts are watts. He'll use a different gear. Yeah, I say for the most part that's true. But there's that dynamic that I'm talking about of, at least with me personally, I can, if I'm climbing, if I'm pushing, pedaling against resistance, I will be able to put out more power over the course of any given time. As long as it doesn't get to go beyond like 2 hours. At that point, that whole thing starts to fade. Yes, Ismansky, it says it would be nice to have all the chat in one place so that people using different platforms would be able to see it. But ideally, just so the viewers and listeners know, it is much, much more beneficial to helping grow what the vision is for Zwift Community Live if you log on and view somewhere like Twitch. That will only help grow the whole dynamic of the esport and the viewership and visibility. So there's that too. But I think people are just unaware of that for the most part at this point, and Facebook just tends to be easier and more accessible to most people right now. But if it's something you want to watch or interact with on any regular basis, it'd be great to head over to Twitch. Oh yeah, so there we go. Chad says the inertia is the difference. The difference exists between flat and climbing, even when watts are the same. Yeah, I think part of that is, I'm a mountain biker, right? So there is, even when you're just pedaling on a flat, there's not really ever time, except for little tiny bits, that your momentum is carrying you. Because if you think of the difference about how a wheel on a road bike rolls down the pavement, and then big fat mountain bike tire rolling through the grass or gravel or dirt, you're constantly pedaling against some sort of resistance. So being as that I have mountain bike raced for most of my adult life, that part of it makes sense to me. Nathan says he's finally going to sleep. So if 3-year-old Milo comes knocking at the door, stream is over. But it's about that time for me anyway. It's about 8 o'clock here. So I'll throw this question out to whoever's listening still. So the next 2 weeks, I have to kind of make a choice about how I train. It's not going to be hugely different, but 2 weeks from now, I have the next Wisconsin off-road series race, a little less than 2 weeks. So this past Sunday, we had a race. 2 weeks out from that is the next one. So Sunday, 2 Sundays from now, I have a mountain bike race, which Nathan and I will have to finish, and then head straight to the Chicago airport to catch our overnight flight to London. We'll get there around noon on Monday. Tuesday evening, I will race the CBR in London. So I have to kind of think about and decide. I'm not sure that it's necessarily a choice between how I perform at one or the other, but maybe slight differences into what kind of training workouts I do over the next 2 weeks. For how I want to perform at either one of those events. So, what do you guys think? Which one should be my training focus? My husband says focus on my strength. Get my punch as strong as I can. Good advice from my coach there. Carrie says, crikey, you're mad. Jet lagged, but that could work in my favor. Yeah, I have one night to try to get some decent sleep before I race in London. But, you know, I have 5 children. I don't know I've ever got what anyone would consider an awesome night of sleep before a race. Maybe like once or twice in all the times I've had to show up to a start line the next day. Szymanski, it is highly unlikely that I'm going to win the London race based on some of the competition and the numbers that are going to be there. But you never know. Tell myself that every race day. Doesn't matter. I think it's like, especially for me in a mountain bike race, when you're out ahead in a race or you're behind and you think you've lost them and you're off the back, it's like, just constantly tell myself, until I cross the finish line, anything can happen. Anything can happen still. Until the race is over, anything can happen. So, talked about that plenty of times before. Just having a good mindset is half the battle in racing and training. I run on fatigue. Yeah, right. All right, you guys. I think I have had enough for the day. Once again, thank you so much for joining in the chat, the comments. Super awesome. You guys make it interesting. And I will be back next Tuesday. And beyond that, you guys will see me at CVR. Craziness. Crazy racing and travel. But it'll be fun. All right, cool. Thanks, you guys. See you next time.